Hello and welcome to a new layout. This will be a new layout that I'm building. It has replaced Oxford Junction. I no longer have Oxford Junction. I was going to dismantle it and salvage as much as I could to reuse for a future Midwestern project. I would still like to make another slightly larger layout based in the Midwest, but unfortunately at the moment I just don't have the space in the garage for it. The garage is a shared space for us. We use it for a lot of storage. I keep my motorcycle in here. I do a lot of work on my motorcycle myself in the garage. Oxford Junction was just in the way. I was actually quite worried about it getting quite seriously damaged. So a change of circumstances meant that I needed to dismantle the layout, or at least move it. Last minute change of heart meant that I offered the layout for sale on a Facebook marketplace group, and the layout sold quite quickly actually, so it is off to a new home. I've actually been without a layout now for several months, so I have recycled a few bits and pieces that I had to make a new layout. The shelf brackets was what was supporting my Rio Charma HON3 layout in the spare bedroom. So I pinched those brackets back. I've put them up on the back wall of the garage with a view to making a new layout. I have been collecting over the last few months some earlier era rolling stock, 40-foot cars, reefers, flat cars, and a new locomotive, with the view to make a Inglenook shunting puzzle. So what we have at the moment is quite temporary. I have just laid out the track quite loosely, just pinned it directly to the ply, and come up with a simple track plan based on the Inglenook shunting puzzle. Inspiration for the layout came from a Model Railroader article, a layout plan called the Port of Brunswick, which also is an Inglenook shunting puzzle, switching puzzle. That was the inspiration for the layout. A nice waterfront scene. It gives the reason for a shunting puzzle, a switching puzzle. I've seen quite a few Inglenook layouts that are quite small. They work well, but they're not necessarily the most realistic. A little bit contrived sometimes with the switching. So I thought a waterfront scene would actually give a reason to actually do the switching in the first place. There's a lot of Inglenook layouts in the UK because they are quite small. Wanted to do something a little bit bigger, slightly grander ambitions. So stuck with USHO. Obviously the cars are a little bit longer, the locomotives are a little bit bigger. Hopefully we'll make a slightly more impressive layout. At this end of the layout are the three sidings. This will be the waterfront end of the layout. At the back of the scene there will be a Wolfers pier terminal building. That's on the kitchen table at the moment, being kit bashed, trying to make the single kit double length by using the back wall at the front. So doing a bit of kit bashing on that at the moment. That will fill in the space at the back of the scene there. There will be some scenic water at the front and a pier wall. Also, I've got a travelling crane which will be at the front of the layout as well. And at the other end of the layout is the yard lead, or the head shunt. 3 car lengths plus the locomotive fit comfortably there. There'll be some industrial buildings just to sort of fill in the scene there. Probably a design preservation kit bash at the back maybe, and then another more suitable building at the front, just to sort of block off what would be the exit through to the rest of the world. So I'll try and block that off with some buildings just to make it look a little bit more natural. Just moving this locomotive out the way a moment. There's something I might like to do with the track plan. Also nice to have something moving, so it's not just a video of me talking, pointing at the layout that's not really here yet. The loco's Broadway Paragon 3. I have hooked up the subwoofer, so hopefully that's coming through on the sound. It is a bit bassier. The front of the layout at this end is going to be quite plain, so I do need to do something with the scenery. So what I might do, obviously welcome your comments, is maybe put in an additional spur, maybe something coming round to the front of the layout, continuing on round to the front of the layout. It won't function or probably even be wired, so it's not going to really take any sort of place in the shunting on the layout, but may give the illusion that the port that I'm basing this on is a much bigger site than what it actually is, or what I'm modelling. Hopefully give the idea that it's sort of got a bit more space maybe. And also I can get the static grass applicator out and maybe not cover the track in weeds, but have it ever so slightly overgrown, sort of indicate that it's not a regularly used spur or siding, or maybe even disused completely. I don't want to go overboard with it, but maybe adding that little bit of extra track there, although not functional, might help with the scenery, break it up, have a little bit of unused ground, disused ground, just to give the idea of a bit more space. I've never liked modelling the USA with lots of buildings and lots of cars. It's a huge country, there's always quite a lot of empty space, and I do like to include that on my models. I've had the waste ground at the front of Oxford Junction there, just so you could look across at the trains going by, or across the cornfield. So I may do something along those lines at the front of the layout here. But obviously if you have any ideas for the front of the layout, please pop them in the comments below. It's not permanent, the layout isn't even really wired up, the track's just loosely pinned down. It can all change. I do realise that the lighting isn't very good back here. The layout lighting on Oxford Junction was built into a rig above the layout. Here I've only got the lights in the actual garage. These run along the length of the garage. The layout is mounted across the back wall of the garage, so I will need to do a new lighting rig. Probably looks okay on camera, but there are a few noticeable shadows. So I would like to do something with the lighting, so I'll do videos on all of that sort of stuff as I go. So hopefully in the next few weeks there'll be a bit of progress. Like I say, I'm currently kit bashing a structure for the back of the layout. There'll be more structures to go. I also need to find a way of laying in all this track into some paving or brick or roads or something along those lines, tarmac. I do want the rails inlaid, and I also need to decide what I'm going to do with the switches, whether they're going to be manual like they are at the moment, having to reach across the layout to flick the switches at the moment. Not a problem when there's only two of them, but obviously doesn't make for very good videography. So I'll decide whether I'm going to have those electric or maybe a mechanical system. The layout is split into two. There is a baseboard joint right there, so I probably will go electric and maybe have a DCC control, a couple of point motors or something like that. All remains to be seen just yet, but I wanted to get some trains running. I have done one operating session. It lasted about 20 minutes to actually do the Inglenook challenge. I just wrote the car names down on the back of some business cards and shuffled those, laid out the 5 cards for the Waterfront for loading onto a ship, and like I say, it took me about 20 minutes. Needed to rearrange 4 of the cars. Luckily one of the cars was already in the right spot, so luck of the draw. Some Inglenook shunting challenges take half an hour, some take 15 minutes, some take 20 minutes. My first one took 20 minutes. Once I've got a little bit more scenery, if you are interested, I will film an operating session, or maybe do it on a time lapse or something like that, but that is all for the future. But this is the first video and hopefully a series of me building this layout. I haven't even named it yet, so I will need a name. I'm thinking of maybe basing it in New Jersey, something like that, or maybe New York, but probably New Jersey. So yeah, any inspiration for a name, I would quite like to hear it. Thanks for joining me, do appreciate it, and I'll be back soon with some progress.